live. 5 participants. Amazing. Hello, everybody. How are you doing? There is a chat feature, and what I want to do is open this up for questions too. If you have the workbook, amazing. If you don't, all of the worksheets that are in the workbook, I've uploaded to the Google Drive. So what I'm just going to do, because I know some of you are going to be panicking that you don't have the worksheets, it's completely fine. I'm going to post them in the comments right now for you guys to see so that you can have a look at them as we go through here. So as you're hopping on, say hi, let me know you're here, let me know where you're from. And there's 2 activities in the first section that we're going to go through. And we're just gonna pause after each section, and if things come up and you'd like to share, I'd love to hear those too. Discover your purpose. Perfect. Okay, so here's the link. I'm going to put it in the comments. Hello from Kansas. Hello, hello. Let's see if I can figure out how to chat from you guys. Whoops, everybody in the meeting. I know Allison is on here. She just texted me saying, it's waiting, it's waiting. A little impatient. Can everybody see that link there? I've never used a Zoom webinar before, but raised hand. Ooh. Hello, if you're just hopping on. Hello from Toronto, excited to hear you speak. This webinar, the links work great. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is we're going through the Discover Your Purpose workbook. I'm going to be breaking this up into sections so it doesn't become overwhelming. We're going to go through roles and conditionings, and we're also going to be going through childhood influences, so the first 2. And this is a course that I've never run before. So that's why it says that this might be 4 weeks, this might be 7 weeks. And I'd love your feedback too about how long you want each training to be. We're gonna be holding this every Thursday, 7 o'clock, coming together as a community. And there's really great research, and I've seen this in my practice as well, that those who have a sense of purpose get sick less often, which is on top of everyone's mind right now, but they also experience less anxiety. So in a time that is often anxiety inducing for a lot of you watching the news, etc., we want to really focus on something that can reduce anxiety. And I thought, what a better way than put together a Discovering Your Purpose course. Hello, Carolyn. Hello, Lori. Okay, we've got a lot of people on here now. So we'll jump right in. I don't know if I can unmute you guys. So if I can unmute, or you can figure out how to unmute yourself at the end of each section if there's something that you'd like to share. If something comes up as we're speaking and it's like a light bulb moment for you, type that in the comments. I would love to see that. I think the more we can interact and make this a community space, it'll be helpful for everyone, and it makes it more fun for me. So I'll be looking over at your comments as we go. And the more you can interact, like I said, it's better for me because then I feel like I'm not just talking at the camera here. All right. So if you haven't completed the workbook, that's completely fine. You can do it after each section when we go along, or we can wait. We can do the training, and then you guys can have the opportunity to complete the worksheets at the very end. I'd love your feedback on what you would rather do. If you want to just plow through each section, and then after we're done, complete it at the end, let me know. All right, so the first things that we're going to be talking about is roles and conditioning. And this is all about looking at the roles that you play on the stage of life. A role is a set of behaviors that you act out during certain situations. And you can imagine that your life is unfolding, such as on a theater stage. If you went to drama as a kid, or you did drama in high school, imagine a theater stage. And you're acting out characters or roles. Okay, so a character or role can be something like a teacher or a doctor. I'm just gonna get my notes here are not working. It's asking me if my app that has all my notes on it is asking me for feedback. And the feedback that I'm going to provide right now is not good. All right. So the roles that you play in certain situations, like we said, can be the role of a parent, a child, a friend, a spouse, an employee, a manager, a teacher, banker, doctor, lawyer, or all of the above. So you can think in your life what types of roles that might be coming up for you. Your character can also play other roles that are more parts of your identity or your lifestyle, such as being a helper or a leader, or maybe even a hero or a villain, okay? So in the comments, what I want you guys to do is just let me know what some of those roles that you're playing. It could be the roles of your career, or it could be those identity or lifestyle roles that we talked about, whether it's being a helper or a leader, hero, villain, superhero, or all of the above. And the roles that you play are not who you are. They're just simply an aspect of what you do in your life, acted out according to the script that you follow, based on how you've been conditioned to believe that role is supposed to be played. So we're having some comments here of mom, wife, manager, friend, daughter, housekeeper, cook, helper. So those are all really great roles. And how you play out those roles or how you act out those roles according to the script that you follow is based on how you've been conditioned to believe that role is supposed to be played. And this all comes down to our childhood experiences. Mom, wife, helper, friend. Yeah, love it. So you've probably heard the term role model, and these role models are people from which you learn how these roles are supposed to be played. So you can think of who the role models are that dictate how your script is or how you believe that you're supposed to be playing: a mom, a wife, a manager, friend, helper, all of those roles that you guys mentioned. And these roles that we play and the beliefs about how they're supposed to be acted out can have a dramatic impact on how we live out our lives and how we present those roles, as you can imagine. And I love this example. And hit a yes in the comments below if this is something you can relate to. And the example is couples who have lived together for 10 years or more, not married, and then they decide to get married, often find that the relationship change once they're officially married. And even put a yes if you've witnessed that in friends or in family that's happened to as well. Yeah. And the same thing can happen when the couple has a child. So you can say yes if you've experienced that too. The dynamic can completely change. And I've experienced that myself. So you might be wondering, this couple has been together for 10 years. Why after so long would the relationship change? And it's because we each have a definition of a role of what a boyfriend or girlfriend versus a husband and wife should be and how we should be acting out those roles. And we all have a definition of what a parent should be, how it should be acted out as well. And much of this is because of those role models that we've had as children on the scripts of how these roles should be acted out. Yes, from friends. Yes, seeing a lot of yeses. And each of these roles carries within our mind an expectation of how someone playing that role is supposed to be. So when we apply those expectations to ourselves and to our partners, even after a long time, if we change the definition of the role, then the relationship can change. So you can see how these roles can dramatically impact the relationships that we have with those that we love. And it's important to recognize these roles because then we can choose to act them out differently. So even if people have been together for a really long time, it's been working great, many of you have said yes, once they're in that new role of husband or wife, even without realizing it, their expectations can shift. And this is because the beliefs that they hold about what marriage is, things that they didn't have to contend with before, it's completely different. And then what happens is when those two people have incompatible definitions of their new roles, a series of problems can pop up that didn't even exist before. And in fact, a famous researcher did a study, the Zimbardo prison experiment. If you've heard of that study, say yes in the comments below. And I'll explain the experiment as well. But what they did is they took college students and they put them in a makeshift prison, and they randomly assigned a role to each of the students. And they were either a guard at the prison or a prisoner. And it was really interesting because this study, and it's available on YouTube if you want to see the actual study that they did and the way these college students behaved. The experiment was supposed to last 2 weeks, but I think it lasted 5 days. And this was because the participants quickly embodied the new role that they were given, and they completely forgot that they were part of an experiment. And what happened was the guards started to treat the other students, who were the prisoners, as actual prisoners. And they even became abusive. It's quite interesting, the behaviors that they had. Again, check that out on YouTube. And the researchers in the study were able to completely demonstrate that people change quickly. This was like 5 days they stopped the experiments, that their behaviors dramatically changed to fit that role that they believed was their role to play. So keep in mind the roles that you have, your definitions of how you are expecting those roles to be played can dictate your behavior. And if we can change those expectations and identify new ways of role modeling, then we can change your behaviors to get the outcomes that we're desiring. And this is really important, for instance, for those of you, many of you said that you were, Stanford prison experiment. For those of you who are moms, lots of moms in here, this is why it's really important. You may have heard that it's important not to label children. And it's really terrible when people give a child an identity such as you're a bad kid, because when they're told that, it becomes their role and identity to be bad. And then of course it's self-fulfilling. They fulfill it in their life. So in your life, whether you realize it or not, you are driven by your roles that you've defined. And unless you become aware of them, you're likely to continue to act them out, even if they don't serve you. So some roles, the way you're acting them out, are absolutely going to be serving you. But there are other roles that the way you're acting them out may not be serving you right now. For example, I've worked with clients who've developed the role of being the victim. So they always tend to find ways and experiences that's going to reinforce that belief, because that's what their mind is in tune to look for. Another example would be clients that tend to take on the role of being everybody else's savior. And I think some of you probably can resonate with that. I know I could. And what happens is, if you're identifying with the role of being a savior, what's going to end up happening is you're going to continually surrounding yourself with people who need to be rescued. So if you can think in your life, if you have this role of being the savior, can you look back on various years of friendships that might have fallen apart, or experiences with other people that might have fallen apart, because those are people that you're surrounding yourself with that tend to need to be rescued. So understanding your role is critical, because it gives you the choice to decide if that role that you're playing is truly serving you and benefiting you. And once you identify which roles you play and how you play them, and more importantly, where you learn to play the role, you can rescript your own role. You can choose to change the roles that you play, as well as how you act each and every one of these roles out, in order to live more authentically as your true self and more in line with what your purpose is, which we're going to be talking about in session 2. So the question is, and this is in your worksheets or your workbook if you've got the workbook from Amazon, the question is here: what roles or characters do you play on the stage of your life? And this could be in family relationships, in your community, in your career. And for each of those roles, how do you play that role? What are the rules that you operate by? For instance, if you've said mother or father in the comments, mostly mothers, friends, wives, daughter, cook, helper, how is that role supposed to be played? What definitions or expectations have you set? And what identity or lifestyle roles do you have? This could be a helper or a leader, hero, villain, victim, savior, any traits that you identify with. And this could be even sexual orientation, lifestyle characteristics, religion, culture. What are the rules and expectations that you set for those as well? So you want to brainstorm all of these different labels that you've put on yourself, because each one of them is a role. And for each of those roles, ask yourself, where did you learn to play this role? Who were your role models? It could be your parents, relatives, teacher, community members, even characters on a TV show would be an option too. And are you playing any roles? This is really important. Are you playing any roles that you don't want to be playing? Or does the way that you're playing these roles feel like they're not truly you? And how would these roles need to change in order for you to feel like you're living in alignment with your true self? And do you have any roles in your life that you're playing now that you need to eliminate? So do you have roles that are not serving you? Do you have roles that you don't like how you're acting them out? Or do you have roles that you need to eliminate? Or can you change the way you're acting them out? And who, if anyone, would be affected by you choosing to change any of these roles? So if there's a role you're playing that you don't want to be playing or you don't like how you're acting it out, who would be affected if you choose to change that role? What benefits do you get from maintaining the role? And what benefits would you get from eliminating them altogether? And who would you be if the roles that you don't want to be playing just disappeared? What would your character be if you were the real you, not defined by roles, but your authentic, true self? And all of these questions are things that come up in the very first worksheet, okay? So you can have a look at the worksheet, write down the answers, post some things that came up, roles that, how about we start with, if anyone is open to sharing, if there's any roles that you're playing that you don't want to be playing, or roles that you feel like you need to change in order for you to start not living a role set by definitions that you have expectations of that role, but just as you, okay? Enabler, that's a really good one. Yeah, so think about that one. What are the characteristics of that? Who's impacted? Who's benefiting? Who would be impacted if you chose not to have that role anymore? Planner. Yeah, so you can, that one as well, you can think of what are the benefits of having that role? What are the downfalls of having that role? Savior, yeah. So what do you guys want to do? Do you want me to move on to the next section? And then you can fill out worksheet 1 and 2 all together? Or do you want to take a pause, a 5-minute pause, and fill out the worksheet? Jordan, I have your book. I have the book downstairs if you want to come grab it. Yeah, it's quite quick. Okay. How about we cut it in the middle? Some want to keep going, some want to have a couple minutes. I'll do 30 seconds, make some jot notes from what I've said. Of course, you can listen to this again. It's recording, I'll make it available. Keep going. Okay, perfect. So the next section in the workbook is all about influences on your worldview. And what this has to do with is from the very first time that we open our eyes, we begin imitating our parents or those around us. For instance, when you smile at a baby, the baby learns to smile. Or if you're a parent and you get frustrated, that's how our kids learn frustration, by mimicking us, right? There's mirror neurons in the brain that start to develop based off of these childhood experiences. And in the process, from the very start, when we're babies, we start learning as well what to fear, what is good, what is bad, and how we are supposed to react to situations. We also learn through observations how to manage our emotions and how to interact with others. Of course, you know, every baby is born with its own temperament or personality, but at their core, how they're reacting to situations or how you're reacting to situations in your daily life often come from what we've learned from our outside world and how others have behaved around us as well. So as children age, they further develop their own personalities and identities, but inevitably in most cases, they take on the roles that their parents have modeled for them. For example, a child that is very giving usually comes from an environment with a parent or people around them who act this way. And this is not always, this is not 100%. So keep that in mind, especially with the next example, that children who are bullying, this is a learned behavior, not always, but sometimes it's a learned behavior that comes from personal experience. Through adolescence and into early adulthood, most of us begin trying on additional roles that we observed through our childhoods. We talked about roles in the first section, and now we're looking at, okay, how do we try on these new roles? For instance, our first romantic relationship, we try on the role of what it's like to be in a relationship. And we often mimic what's been taught about relationships from our childhood. So we try it on for the very first time. And for some, this means, you know, love and compassion, but for many others, these rules follow a script, possibly of neglect, abuse, clinging behaviors, on again, off again relationship tendencies, needy attachments, etc. Whatever we learn through observation a relationship is supposed to be like is how we often behave. And this can change, but how we observe relationships and how we observe primarily our parents reacting, those are the roles that we initially try on as children and adolescents. An example of this that we see, and this is documented in clinical research, we see it's common for young adults who are abused by their parents or witnessed abuse to actually end up in an abusive relationship or end up being abusive themselves. And this is not always, of course, but it's something that we do see. So not only do we begin imitating the relationships we had observed as we enter adulthood, it's also common for us to follow the same path academically and professionally as well. I'm sure you probably know someone who parents are a doctor, so they're a doctor. Parents are a lawyer, they're a lawyer. Parents went into trades, so they went into trades, or they started in the family business. And it's really, again, it's no surprise when these children go into the family business or go into the same types of careers as the parents. And it's almost cliche to mention a child whose parents wants to take over the family business, and then they experience an inner battle or identity conflict when the child decides to take a different path. So there's the expectations, and they've seen the role models of the family business, then they choose a different path, and it creates this inner battle. And most often on a smaller scale, or sometimes it's a bigger scale, we don't recognize that it's truly impacting us. And each time we are given the opportunity to take a step back, observe our lives, observe our options, the choices, or possibly choosing to go off the well-worn path and start a new one, this can create stress for individuals or even excitement. And the silver lining is here is that we all have the choice to learn from what our experiences were as a child, rather than continue to repeat the same pattern and rules that we've been taught over and over again. When living on autopilot, when our unconscious brain is just taking over, it's easy to see how one can fall into patterns and rules that they experienced and learned and observed in childhood. So simply taking the time to reflect on your childhood experience, how our caretakers have influenced us, really gives us an opportunity to choose differently if we want to. So in the next section, there's an activity in the workbook, or download the pages, that's completely fine too. This is a starting point to bringing forth some light and allowing your conscious mind to understand of who we are, who we came from, who we want to be, who's influenced our worldview or core beliefs, and really looking at the experiences we had as a child. We are influenced by many things, of course, the country, the community that we grew up in, our culture, our heritage, even the media that we're exposed to. And this is why I'm trying the best that I can to keep my children away from too much of the news right now, because I don't want them to instill this fear-based mindset that they carry forth and repeat in their lives of the world's unsafe, other people are not safe. So really think of that if you have the news on around your children as well. And we also want to look at the people who have the most direct influence on us. And this tends to be the people that we're closest to. So if you're reflecting back to your childhood, it's going to be your primary caretaker who would have had the greatest imprint on you. Basically anyone who helped raise you, who had their own significant belief system or view about life. And oftentimes, if you've had multiple caretakers with the same belief systems, those can be reinforced as well. So discuss and think about, brainstorm the influential people, their actions, their beliefs. These are all the building blocks on which you build your own view of the world and how you view yourself. So what you believe about the nature of the world is a combination of the influences all these people had on you in early childhood. So you can imagine if you're a child right now living in a perceptual fear-based, yes, we need to be concerned right now, we need to be practicing proper hand washing and social isolating, but what we really want to focus on is not perpetuating the idea that people are unsafe, the world's unsafe, the scarcity mindset, talking about financial purpose, just be really mindful if you have young kids at home, because this is what's going to be imprinted in them, and this is going to carry forth into all different aspects of their life. So what I want you to do in this activity is identify maybe 2 to 3 people who had the greatest impact on you and answer the following questions. Write down all the words that represent all of your caretakers' belief about life. Is it a scarcity mindset? Is it, you know, people will say you have to work really hard, or you can't be happy till you're at this point, or other things that I've heard is you have to work in order to be successful. And if we really look at that belief system, it's not always true. There are people that have worked really hard and are not successful. There are people that don't work really hard and they are successful. So we have to look at what our belief systems are, or what those belief systems are of our parents that have been passed down to us. And this could be finances, it could be politics, it could be religion, it could be about work, it could be about mindset, it could be about happiness, anything that they've instilled that comes up for you. Work hard, play hard. And then after you have all those qualities of your 2 to 3 caretakers, or maybe just 1 to 2 characters, circle any beliefs that you've taken on as your own. And did you know that you wanted to be like this person? Or did it just happen by default? Did you choose? Or if it was, maybe it was just an unconscious decision. If you can look at, okay, your mom was your primary caretaker, these were her beliefs, these are the ones that I've taken on. And did you want to be like that, or did it come onto you as default? And then put a star next to beliefs that you've purposely chosen not to adapt. So there's going to be qualities of your caretakers that you've adapted as your own, and there are going to be some qualities that you haven't adopted on your own. So circle the ones that you have and put a star or line through the other ones that you haven't. Now notice where your caretakers' beliefs are the same or different. Do you lean to one caretaker over the other? Or is there a situation in between? Have you adopted a happy medium between belief systems? And are any of the beliefs that you hold dramatically different than the beliefs of your caretakers? Next, for each major caretaker, ask yourself, what would you say their life's purpose or life's mission may have been? What were they passionate about? So this is your caretaker. What did they seem to be trying to accomplish in the world? Because as much as we mimic behaviors, we often mimic purpose as well. Now ask yourself, in what way were their missions inspired? And how have their core purpose, how has that inspired your current ambition and your values? Did you feel drawn to, carry on their legacy of what their purpose was? Or did you feel the need to ignite a completely different fire? So again, we're going to look at taking a moment to doing this activity. You can review this video if you'd like and do both at the end and go through this. The purpose of this is to start exploring the influences that you've had and what you've created in your own life and what you want to create moving forward because of it. So looking at childhood influences, core beliefs, and the influences of the 1 to 2 primary caretakers that you've had on you. So does anyone have any questions about that? Any questions or comments? We can go through them. And I think this is a good length too. If we can do weekly sessions that are maybe 20 to 30 minutes, going through a little bit of background on the material and then give you an opportunity to go through the workbook. Maybe next session, if anything came up substantially for you and you want to share it, we can do that. And possibly I can figure out how to get you guys on video next time, because I don't know if you guys can join video. Hang with me here. I've got Q&A, I've got questions. Oh, chat. It can be parents or grandparents, aunts or uncles, whoever spent a significant amount of time with you is typically who the primary influence is, or it could be anyone that you've identified has had a profound influence on you. Either are great. The link to purchase this, yeah, so this is how it looks. I'll post a link to, it's just available on Amazon, it's $10. And all it is, there's nothing more in the workbook than what I've posted. It's just all the worksheets combined into one, that's all. Cool. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. Fill out sessions 1 and 2, and then next week we'll be going through the next couple sheets. Just keep it short and sweet every week. Come together, do something to discover your purpose. Knowing what your purpose is and having a sense of purpose in the world really does help create overall health, not only from a mindset perspective, reducing stress and anxiety, which we could all use right now, but also people tend to get less sick when they have a sense of purpose and belief in what they do. So I hope that was helpful. I'm going to be doing mine. Jordan can use his book, which I took from the kitchen. So you're welcome to come get that. I know you're watching this video from another room, which is super weird. Just seems weird, but here's what it is. Okay, guys, I hope you have a fantastic night. If you want to message me privately about anything that came up, feel free to do so. I'll be hanging around my phone and happy to chat about it with you as well. Okay, talk soon.